Yo, my name's Nate, and recently I played through Fire Emblem Awakening. It's one of the best 3DS games of all time, if you ask me, and actually, according to Metacritic, it is the second highest rated game on the Nintendo 3DS. So I know it's not at the top of everyone's list for a Fire Emblem game that needs to be remade. However, having played through it recently, I feel like there's a couple of key aspects of this game that have not aged well. So as such, today I'd like to take a second critical look at this game to see where it can be improved. So, I love the story of Fire Emblem Awakening. I think it's great, and I love it. I know some fans didn't like it, but I think what they did was they took this really, tried and true story of a bad guy trying to take over the world and then mixed it up with time travel. Specifically, we got to see Lucina, who lived in the timeline where the heroes fail and the Foul Dragon takes over the world, and she goes back into the past to change things. And this is the part of the story that I fleshed out a little bit more. I mean, we're able to get a glimpse into this past with a couple of cutscenes where we see Lucina fighting in that alternate future where the heroes have failed and the Fell Dragon's about to take over the world. And we also know that Naga, had the power to send her into the past, but how did she get to this point? And that's where I'd like to see the story fleshed out a little bit more. I'd love to be able to play through a couple of maps as Lucina and, whoever her crew was in that timeline and be able to explore that a little bit more. And then along with that, we know that Lucina travels to the past to change events. We see it in the game. However, what is she doing during those first 13 chapters when she's not with us and we don't see her in the chapter? I'd love to explore that a little bit more. And finally, the last thing that I would like fleshed out, but it doesn't need to necessarily happen in a remake, is to see what happens during the time gaps. So the first time gap that's pretty noticeable is the 2-year time gap in the middle of the game between the defeat of Gongril and then the war with Walhart. So I think it'd be really cool if we got to see this fleshed out a little bit more. Specifically, we know that during this time period, Chrom and Robin developed a better relationship. And we also know that the bonds between the two nations were healed during this time period. So I think it'd be cool if we got to see some paralogs about how things are getting cleaned up or how that relationship is being developed out. So in this story, there's one other gap that we don't really know what happens during this time period, and this is in the event you finish the game with Robin sacrificing himself to save the world. Now, if you choose this route, at the end of the credits, you get to see a scene where Chrom finds Robin again. And I think it would be really cool if during that time period we got to explore a little bit more about Chrom and, go on some paralogs to hopefully find Robin. I think if they did that, it would flesh it out, but it doesn't necessarily need to be in a remake of Fire Emblem Awakening, but I think it would be a good addition if they had the time or the manpower. Alrighty then, let's talk about the worst part of this game, and that is the graphics. The graphics, in my opinion, have not aged very well at all. You look at the character models, they look like these weird mix of a chibi character and a normal-sized character, and it just doesn't look good to me. And the key thing that these characters are missing is the feet. I mean, when the developers were making this game, they didn't know how powerful the 3DS was going to be, so they just went along and made these simpler models. However, after they learned that the 3DS did have enough power, they just didn't decide to do it, so shame on them. However, now going forward, one of the things I'd really like to see is a more timeless graphic style put in place. I know that wasn't possible in the 3DS, but on a system like the Switch or whatever Nintendo's going to have in the future, I think this could be easily done. I think that they could have these beautiful looking 3D models, similar to maybe Three Houses, and they could withstand the test of time. Now, I don't think everything in Three Houses looks bad at all. I think the cutscenes are beautiful in this game, and I think that if they were remade in HD, they'd look even better. So you see, I'm one of those people who really likes anime. However, when I'm playing a video game, I don't like to be watching an anime at the same time. I like to focus on one thing at just one time. And one of the issues I had with this game when I was playing it is I saw these beautiful, gorgeous cutscenes, and I would think, oh, I'm going to get another cutscene at the end of this chapter, and so I'm going to play through it as fast as I can to get it. But it turns out, not every chapter has that. And some of the chapters have barely any story at all. So one thing I think they could really do to make this game better is to add in more of these beautiful, amazing cutscenes at almost every chapter. Now, I know some players wouldn't like that, and they don't like the cutscenes, they don't like the story. Well, it's simple. Just add in a skip button, or, they have summaries. I believe they even have a summary in the game, so you can follow along what each chapter was about in case you lost it. So they'll just do something like that, problem solved, everyone's happy. Alrighty, now I'm going to talk about things that I want in the game that are not already in the game. One of the key things that I really would love to have in the game is a map maker. Map makers are awesome and amazing. Just a few years ago, we had a game came out. It was called Wargroove. It was amazing. And in Wargroove, it had a map maker and it also had a campaign maker right when the game was released. And in all honesty, this added a whole ton of longevity to the game, in my opinion. And also, I think that players in general really like to make things. You look at Minecraft, people love to make things in Minecraft. You look at Animal Crossing, people like to make things in Animal Crossing. It's a thing that people like to do. Creation is a normal thing. People like to do it. So Intelligent Systems, if by some odd means you're listening to this video, please add in a map maker. It would make me very happy, and I'm sure it'd make many fans out there happy too. It would add to the game, it would make it better, it would make it longer, it would just please everyone. I mean, I could already think of the cool maps that people are going to make. It's just going to be wild to see all of these different creative minds from around the world get to put whatever they want into Fire Emblem, and then it'd be so cool to play through like your friend's campaign and switch back and forth, or even have online capabilities where you get to share it with the world, and you have a ranking system, so whoever has the best map or the most downloaded map is right there at the top. I just find this whole idea of a map maker incredible, and I hope that it gets into, if not Fire Emblem Awakening Remake, then it gets into another Fire Emblem Awakening game. Now, going off of that last topic we talked about a map maker. However, one thing that I really think could be improved upon this game in general is actually the maps and having more features to the maps. I look at past games and other tactical role-playing games, and I feel like they have a little bit more fleshed out maps. It's not that these maps aren't good, they're great, they make the game fun, they're amazing. However, they're not very memorable in my opinion. The only one that really comes to mind after having played through Fire Emblem Awakening recently is the Volcano map. That was a really cool map because it forced you to move around and, constantly be thinking about which units are going to be hit by lava and which ones aren't, and it was amazing. It was a great map. However, I can't really think of too many other maps that are like that. I mean, there's the map that or Smash Bros has a stage based off of, but yeah, I mean, that's not even that great of a map. It's just an arena. Like, anybody could think of that. One of the things I really brought back from past Fire Emblem games is the terrain, and terrain affecting your characters and how they do in battle. I feel like in this game, it didn't have that. I mean, terrain could slow you down, and basically if you had a Pegasus Knight, it could fly anywhere on the map, and if you were just a regular swords person or on a horse, you couldn't really go anywhere if there was a lot of trees or something like that. But I think that they should add in more variety to the map and have different terrain and maybe have advantages. If somebody's in a forest and somebody's outside, the person in the forest has a little bit of an advantage over the person outside. Now, I know in past games they were able to do this easily because it was in 2D and you'd be on two different planes and it would have that different graphical style for the person who was in the forest versus the person who was not in the forest. But I think that they could maybe implement something similar to this. I mean, Nintendo and the teams who make this game, they're very creative. I think they could come up with something to make that happen and bring back that past elements of the game that I really, really enjoyed. Okay, so the last things I'd like to talk about in this video for Fire Emblem Remake are just kind of nitpicky things. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the title screen. Now, when I first played through this game, I was so excited because I saw this empty Fire Emblem on that title screen, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to get to go on this quest, I'm going to get to collect the gems, and they're going to fill up the title screen as I collect them throughout the game. Well, sadly, that wasn't the case because I remember when I was playing through the first time, I shut down my 3DS after I got the first gem, and then I went back to the title screen and I was like, is there a glitch in the game? What's going on? So this is just a really small thing for me, but I think it would be kind of cool if they did that because honestly, the title screen it's not great in my opinion. It's just the Fire Emblem. I mean, it looks cool, but it'd be cooler if they filled it in with the gems as you got them. I mean, I know that you can have different save files, but maybe just base it off of whatever the first save file is, and that's how you do it. It'd be a great thing to add to the game, in my opinion. It'd be just a nice little boop touch to the game. Well, the next thing I'd like to talk about should be pretty obvious to include in a remake of the game, but that would be the DLC. We had some really good DLC in the game that added to it, made it better, kind of fleshed out the story, or gave us some alternate stories, and also appeased some of the older fans. So I think they should just automatically include that DLC in there, and maybe make the Outer Realms a little bit different. The menu system is a little bit annoying in my opinion for Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS, so maybe if they made it its own map or made the Outer Realms something different, that would make it a little bit more enjoyable. And last of all, the one thing that I would like changed about this game is the barracks. So the barracks, they're pretty bare bones in my opinion. I mean, you look at Fates or Three Houses, and they have these great ways to interact with the characters. I mean, Three Houses does it really well. I think that some fans don't like the monastery in Three Houses because it forces people to walk around and they're like, this isn't Fire Emblem. Well, it can be entirely optional in my opinion, but I think it would be really cool because that way you'd get to interact with the other characters. You could walk around as Robin and talk with them, and it wouldn't just have to be, waiting for random events to occur in the barracks. Because in all honesty, it's pretty bare bones and not a lot happens. But if they were able to improve upon that, that would be fantastic. Alrighty then. So those are the aspects of Fire Emblem Awakening that I would love to see remade. Now, I know this game's probably not going to get remade in the future anytime soon, but seeing as how it basically saved the Fire Emblem franchise, I would imagine that it's probably going to get remade at some point in time in the future. Now, I know every fan is different, and maybe some of you liked what I had to say, and others of you didn't like what I had to say. So leave a comment down below and tell me what you would like to see in a potential Fire Emblem Awakening remake. Well, I've been Nate, and in the future I plan to make more Nintendo and Fire Emblem related content. So if you're into that sort of thing, feel free to subscribe. Alrighty then, well I'm signing off for today, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.